right, everybody. We've got another very special guest for y'all. Everybody, please welcome to the show, Nicholas Casbarro. Casbarro. Welcome,
You
Mike.
got
Yeah.
Nailed it.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Yeah, thanks for being here, man. We have to do the first timer interviewee thing of putting you through the gauntlet and giving us your origin story of making a comic. I guess it was the novel first, right, and then the comic, but kind of give us the idea. Where did the idea, for this sci-fi epic kind of start?
So, at the last company that I was at, I was on a plane 3 to 5 days a week.
Wow. Okay.
So I was flying a lot, and you start to run out of Netflix episodes to download.
I know that pain.
Watch, and it's pretty much, it's kind of a waste of time anyway. Well, when you're in the air that much. And so I had a couple of ideas that I wanted to, I guess, flesh out. Some of them were from, as old as my childhood. I had a little creative streak when I was younger, like all through high school. And then, I kind of lost touch with that throughout college and, after I got into the working world. And so I didn't have a creative outlet for a long time. But there was a lot of interesting things going on at the time when I started it. So I was pulling from current events. I also have some pretty fucked up dreams, if I'm being honest with you. Some of them are recurring, and then some of them I experience sleep paralysis on a fairly
wow.
basis.
That's awful. I'm sorry to hear that.
It's all right. It turned it into something cool.
Yep.
And so that added kind of a little bit of a cosmic horror theme to what I was trying to do.
Yeah.
And I wanted to find a way to incorporate all of this stuff together into one thing. And so I had a long flight. It was from Miami to Hawaii. And I said, you know what, let's just give it a shot. Let's see what happens. So I sat down and I started writing on the plane. And I got off the plane in Hawaii. And I was like finishing up chapter 4. I was like, holy shit. So I gotta. So then I really started planning it out, and I started building the universe, and everything snowballed from there.
Mm-hmm.
And I found that I really loved it. Like, I enjoyed doing this. It made sense for me to write sci-fi. It's kind of, it's like my number one go-to if I'm ever, if I'm ever flipping through Netflix or looking for something to read or playing games. I love space games. Anything spacefaring is right up my alley.
Awesome.
And so that's what I wanted to write and make.
Yeah.
And, as I started writing more, at first it was like, this is cathartic. If it doesn't turn into anything, whatever. But then probably around like 3/4 of the way through the book, I don't know what it was. Something just clicked. I was just like, this is all I can think about right now. I need to bring this to fruition. And I had to see it through. So I really started putting a lot of effort into it. And then when the book was out, I was like, well, what am I going to do next? Well, obviously I'm going to write the next books, but what do I really want to do? What else do I enjoy? Well, I enjoy, sci-fi games. I enjoy cinema. I enjoy all these different things. Why not bring this to that? And so then the comic book came around because it was the logical, at least to me, it was the logical next step in bringing forth like a pictorial version of what I was writing about. And so the comic book adaptation came next. And that's been a lot of fun because it's been a huge kind of a learning experience for me. I've never really done anything like this before. The writing thing was the first thing that I had I never thought I would write a book. I always put people who wrote and published books, I guess, on kind of like a pedestal, almost like an unreachable, like, oh, well, they're they're geniuses. That's why they were do that. But the more I did it, the more I was like, I just need to do the work. And so I've had a lot of fun. I've got an amazing illustrator. His name's Francisco Nilo. He's the one who basically we've kind of, after working, we're working on issue number 3 now. He knows, I know his style. He kind of knows what's going on in my head now at this point. So we work really well together. And then my colorist's name is Chandran Panusamy. And he is also very talented and really adds those final touches that really bring just that world to life. So I've been enjoying every minute of it, and I'm just kind of learning as I go along. You
Yeah.
know?
When you said that, uh, what's the biggest like jump going? Because you said we talked a little bit earlier. You said the comic versus the book. Each comic is what, 1 to 2 chapters of the book.
Yes,
And
yeah,
so
just about.
yeah. So how was that? What was the learning curve going from the novel dialogue heavy and writing heavy versus the comic? What was that? What was the
It
biggest?
it was a big change.
Yeah.
So I mean, when you take kind of a total 180-degree turn from, my day job, my day job, I have a medical distributorship.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm in medical devices. That's kind of my day to
Yep.
day. That's paying the bills right now.
Yeah.
And, this is the other stuff is, me slowly writing my way out of my day job.
Mm-hmm.
And
Awesome.
I each new step is kind of like its own new adventure. So I'm reading a lot. I'm trying to see what other people are doing or have done, um, to just try and basically take the next step to developing the series. From writing the novel to writing a comic script was really different. I compare writing a comic script to basically like almost like being a director,
Right.
because you're describing everything. You're boiling everything down. So I had to condense a lot of the dialogue,
Mm-hmm.
because a panel that's just filled completely with text is not going to be the most
Right.
exciting thing to be flipping through. So that was an interesting process, and thankfully I had a lot of help from my illustrator, who's been in this world for a very long time. So
Mm-hmm.
he's not only my illustrator, he was kind of my coach at the beginning as well. So I have a lot of respect for just his knowledge base and
Mm-hmm.
everything that he has done in his career. Um, and I'm open to I guess being fluid with it. I'm not so married to some of the concepts that I put down on the page that I'm willing to shift gears a little bit if we need to make sure that it's the best possible content that we're putting out.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, yeah.
That's awesome.
So
Yeah.
but you have to describe everything. You got to
Right.
describe the camera angle, where
Yeah.
it's
Where do you
from,
want the
where it's
shot
coming
from?
through.
Yeah. Pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yep.
So a little different.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
And did you have any history with comics prior to writing this?
Funny enough, not a whole lot.
Yeah.
And so this is kind of like my comic renaissance. It's because
Nice. Yeah. Yeah.
I've kind of found a whole new world that I'm diving into head first. So I've been doing a lot of Comic Cons, so I get to
Yep.
go out there and see a lot of other people's stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing like 20 shows this year.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's a lot.
I'm hitting the road, man.
Yeah. That's
Trying to make some waves.
Yeah. That's
And
great.
so it's been fun, because you meet good people. You get to see where their inspiration comes from, and what it is that they're doing and what they're trying to do differently.
Yep.
And I can say, okay, well, that's being done. Well, maybe I'll go and try something like this.
Right.
And because I want to make mine unique. I don't want to overly bias my decision making when it comes to creating new content by everyone else's. I want it to be kind of its own unique thing.
Yeah.
That
That makes sense.
When you're doing the cons, because I hear a lot from comic creator friends of mine that people come by the first issue on Friday, let's say, and then read it overnight, and then Saturday will come back and they'll want the rest of it because they love the first issue so much. Do you get anybody that buys the first issue and comes back and then buys the novel?
Yes, that has absolutely happened. And so,
Wow.
you can only relay so much information in an exchange that's 5 minutes long, right?
Mm-hmm.
Someone comes to your booth, they say, what's all this? What's all these neon lights? I've got a pretty vibrant booth, but you tell them what you can, and if they're interested, they buy it. And I have had some people who are like teetering between, oh, do I buy the book? Do I buy the comic book? And they go, well, I'll dip my toe in. I'll try the comic book first. And then, next day, like clockwork, they're back and they're like, this is exactly what I was looking for. And that is, I can't tell you how cool a feeling that is.
Yeah.
Like for someone to just come back the next day and be like, I'm in, let's do this, and jump and buy the novel.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah. It's a good feeling.
I think you're on a unique standpoint too, because a lot of indie creators, indie comic creators we talk to don't generally know the ins and outs of sales and how to present yourself and at least how to sell a product, right? Where you come from that space, you definitely know how to do that, right? And you're like, well, now I just have to sell my own idea, something that I want to sell. Right? So you're at a very unique standpoint, I think.
Yeah. I find I have to reel myself in sometimes because I'll keep talking because then my passion gets in the way.
Yeah.
Of even like my knowledge of sales and things like that, and I'll just be like, and then he does this, and then we're going, and I just go I go on a tangent, and
it's awesome.
Yeah, but it's fun, and people notice like sincere passion, I think, and that is something I definitely have in spades when it comes to this.
Awesome.
For this series, I am all in.
Awesome.
I mean, to kind of commit yourself to a 7 novel series, it's a lot of time. Like it's probably going to take me the better part of the next decade to fully finish this.
It'll still be done before the last Game of Thrones book.
I was just about to make a George Martin joke.
It'll still be yeah. That is a crazy amount of work you have ahead of yourself, though, for sure.
Yeah,
that's wild. And I guess we got to get into it a little bit. I mean,
well, can Vitilarium, before you shift too much, can I just jump in with, as somebody who doesn't have a whole lot of knowledge of comics and wasn't really in this world, how did you go about finding a team to help you make this real, i.e. your artist?
So I guess a little bit of luck and a little bit of just making sure that I was, reviewing their work and choosing the right talent. Because I had talked to a few people and I was like, yeah, this could work. This might work. And then I spoke to a friend of mine who I hadn't talked to in a while because I remembered that at one point he tried to make like a pay-per-click comic website.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, hey, I'm doing this now. He said, oh, do you have a comic book artist? I said, no, not yet. I'm between a few people. He said, forget that. You need to talk to my guy. And that guy, Francisco.
Wow.
Francisco's down in Argentina, so there would have been no other way I would have really come across this guy. And we jumped on. I reviewed some of his work. His work looked awesome. I jumped on a call with him, and he just seemed like a solid guy to work with. And the kind of interaction where like the light bulb goes off in your head, and you're like, that's my guy.
Yep.
Like you just kind of know.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, all right, well, let's do this. And he's the one who introduced me to Chandra, who does all of the coloring.
Wow.
And he, once again, great to work with, another amazing talent, and really adds that's where I think the dark feel of the comic is coming from the color palettes that he uses. And it's a perfect kind of 3-way mesh that we've got going on here because I guess they had worked together in the past. So
that's really cool.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit. So Vitalarium, right?
Yes.
And so let's get into it. We haven't talked about it yet, but give us the plot synopsis. And I think the Vitalarium is an element or a material that's from what I gathered so far. So give us the rundown and what this is, and how this is taking place in the first volume, Descent into the Void, right? So,
yes,
yeah. So give us the rundown
of
the 7 novel arc. No, I'm just kidding.
of the set.
Yeah, we want the whole overview of the entire series, just so you know.
I hope you guys, we're on to like 9 p.m., right?
Yeah, we're good. We got about 6 more hours.
I got all the time in the world. It's fine.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. So to boil it down for you guys, Vitalarium is kind of a nice mix between sci-fi and space opera.
Okay.
So the hard sci-fi fans get, a little bit of the hard sci-fi because I try and base everything in either current physics theory or prospective physics theory.
Okay.
Everything from the mode of travel, which comes from Vitalarium itself, which you're absolutely right. It's an exotic material that's discovered. It's not native to Earth, but after testing it, they basically discover that it creates a field around it that allows for faster than light travel when the right type of energy input is applied.
Okay.
So essentially, it's my answer to there was a physicist named Miguel Alcubierre who in the 90s put out a paper basically describing what he called the Alcubierre drive, which is kind of like a Star Trek style faster than light travel. Okay. And he said one of the things that would be required is an exotic material, or basically to fill the gap in what we do not know is required for this to work. Mm-hmm. So my answer to that was this exotic element, Vitalarium. Oh, cool. And like, for instance, another way you get a little bit of hard sci-fi. So the way that the planets communicate basically instantaneously is through quantum coupling of photons that are shared between the planets, so that basically once two particles are quantum entangled, they operate dependent of each other no matter how far you space them out, even across vast distances, like between galaxies. Mm-hmm. So when you turn one, the other one turns at the exact same time. Mm-hmm. And so that basically is the way that they create a kind of a communication device, almost like a new version of the internet for instantaneous communication. So you get that hard sci-fi element. Then you get the space opera element, which is the adventure, the character-focused story, the multiple narratives that are going on the planet where the story takes place. The excitement, the conspiracy, the mystery, all that kind of stuff. You get that element from it as well. So it's not just for the hard sci-fi guys. It's for anyone who likes any type of adventure story. Mm-hmm. But essentially, Vitalarium follows humanity after we become multiplanetary. And the story takes place 700 years in the future on the 7th colonized human planet. You end up following a roughneck freelancer, kind of a mercenary type. He's doing odd jobs for local gangs when you first meet him. His name is Roman Matthews. And Roman is a fairly morally gray protagonist. He's kind of a lost soul. He's kind of a drunk. He's basically doing odd jobs for local gangs so that he can blow all his money on booze and whores. And he's just kind of floating through life. And circumstances from his work basically embroil him in this massive conspiracy that has the authoritarian government of his planet hunting him. Mm. And so he has to band together with kind of a motley crew, both in the underworld of Diorum, which is the planet that it takes place on, and in the public eye, to basically survive the ordeal. And so that's just book one. And you don't, as I mentioned, you don't just follow him. You really get a feel for the whole world building because you follow a number of other characters as well. A couple of politicians. Gives you a feel for the political turmoil that's brewing in the background. You get a little bit of political intrigue from it. You follow an intergalactic pop star as she's touring from planet to planet with her posse. And she's not quite what meets the eye in the beginning. She kind of has a finger in everything. Her and her crew are very interesting. They have an interesting dynamic. And you follow a physicist who basically... Well, I won't say what happens to him. I don't want to give away too much. But essentially, all of their all of their storylines intertwine throughout the book, and it gives you a real feel for what's really going on in the background.
Mm-hmm. That's really cool. Go ahead, Chris.
How many science magazines did you read leading up to writing this?
So a lot of articles online, a lot of things like that, a lot of podcasts with physicists, a lot of just listening and learning. What's kind of cool about this is this whole endeavor has kind of like reignited my like desire to learn again. Mm-hmm. Like I'm not just kind of like going to work every day and doing that. I'm like, all right, there's a new interesting concept. I want to read up on that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And at the very beginning, I was using, the only thing I ever used AI for in this process was to basically figure out what I don't even know yet. Like basically just to shorten my learning curve a little bit. So like, hey, I want to learn about physics, like faster than light travel theories and things like that. Where do I start?
Yeah.
And then point me to this website or that article or this.
Nice. That's awesome.
Physicist. And then I could go and basically do my research.
That's cool. Yeah. That's probably the best way to use AI.
Yeah. Well, that's And so and that's the only thing I use it for. All my artwork is original, even like the 3D renderings of the characters. Yeah. The book cover, the any of the concept art, all of the comic book art. I already told you about my illustrator, my colorist. I feel like, especially nowadays, it's a very controversial thing. Mm-hmm. And so, if anyone were to say like find out that someone had wrote something with AI, like they're going to shun that person from the writing community. I don't blame them. Like who would bother to read a book that no one could be bothered to write?
Yeah.
And so I hold very adamantly to that, throughout the creative process.
Awesome.
I say, Mike, I think the other best case for AI is those videos of Trump and Obama playing Call of Duty together. Those are pretty phenomenal too.
Those are pretty hilarious.
They're pretty great.
Like they're like shit talking each other. Yeah. Those are pretty awesome.
Yeah, so there is a use, obviously.
Only two. There's only two sides.
And that was one of the things that I wanted to make sure I feel like everyone nowadays is writing about AI, and there's like so much around it. And I didn't want that it's certainly something that I plan to incorporate a little bit more in some of the future novels and some of the future comics as a result. But I wanted to create more of a future where humanity and AI kind of found I want to say like a little bit of a happy working relationship, right? Maybe not so happy in terms of what's going on in the background. A little teaser for you for books 3 and 4. But there's I basically describe it as like a shift in priorities in the book. Almost like the ability for us to finally have the ability to travel to new planets, escape the finite resources of Earth alone, and be able to do all these mining operations, colonize new planets. It basically, I think the way I described it was basically recognizing our opportunity to become the gods we had always strived to emulate. Mm-hmm. We focused more on our expansion into the cosmos, using AI as a tool to get us there rather than trying to create, the next all-powerful being above us. Okay. And so that's kind of the
that's cool.
almost like a shift in priority that just kind of almost solved the problem on a like to scale basis.
Yeah. As far as like comic book science goes, you've leaned more into the actual science more than the comic book side of it, of like, because you read a lot of sci-fi stuff and they usually develop their own rules for how things work, especially with interstellar travel and all that stuff. But having a more realistic approach and rooted in like stuff that you learned about is like actual, scientists talking about is pretty awesome.
Yeah, and once again, it's fun learning about all this stuff.
Yeah.
But I will say there is an element of the book that is a little bit more unknown, and it has to do with basically how the protagonist gets embroiled in the whole conspiracy.
Okay.
Because he basically has a near-death experience, and that experience allows him to basically have a reaction that has never been seen before. And you'll learn a little bit more about that, and it seems a little bit more like a science fantasy element right now, but as you get deeper into the book, you find out the roots of it. And you'll basically, I'll let the readers discover that, because that's a fun little surprise that it makes for a very interesting story progression.
Okay, cool.
So you discussed earlier about why you chose to go the route with the book and making a comic, to make the medium, to move mediums and everything. Have you thought at all about expanding the story through the comics, or maybe doing like another series inside the world that like builds it into a bigger thing, like a Star Wars does, or something like that?
100%. Yes. So I had a meeting probably a month or two ago with my illustrator, and with him, we basically planned out the entire canon of where I want to take the comic book series.
Awesome.
I get into things. Like I don't sit still well. So if I'm going to start something, I'm going to eventually become obsessed with it. And I basically created this canon where we're going to follow. Right now, the comic book is only following the protagonist, Roman Matthews, throughout the course of the book. I'm going to have a time before the book, which you get your first little glimpse of in the next issue that comes out. Because right now, issue 1 and 2 are out. The next issue is going to be issue 0. In issue 0, anything that is basically, it's half of it is before what is written in the book, and half of it is what is basically leads up to issue 1 in the book. Anything before the book is going to actually go backwards in chronological order. So it'll be issue 0, and then issue 0x1, issue 0x2, issue 0x3, and it'll be going backwards in chronological order. Anything moving forward will be going forward in just regular 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I also have plans for character offshoots, so members of basically his kind of group of allies, we're going to dive a little bit deeper into their backstories, and those are going to connect with the main narrative. I have rough ideas right now on paper for one of the other characters who makes an appearance in issue 2. The character's name is Modus Magni, and he is a club owner / militia leader. So he's a little bit more than meets the eye, and he is a super interesting character. And his backstory alone that I had kind of crafted as I was writing the book, I finished writing that, and I was like, oh, this would be an awesome series just in and of itself. I'd like to elaborate more on this and basically how he got to Planet Diorum and started the Wibitani militia, which is the militia that he basically controls. And so that's something that I've been throwing around. The other idea that I had for, going way back in kind of the Vitalarium timeline is the book takes place a couple hundred years after this long war between all of the human colonized planets. So before they colonized planet Diorum, there were 6 colonized human planets. And all of the planets had basically created this like space police force almost to basically moderate space travel for all of the planets to just kind of keep humanity's just boundless ambition in check. And over the 300 or so years that they were an entity, they had been allowed to become too powerful. And so when humanity starts running low on Vitalarium, they start searching again for the source of Vitalarium. Because a little bit goes a long way. Just a chunk of Vitalarium the size of your fist can power a spaceship the size of a football field. Mm-hmm. It's extremely potent and extremely rare. And so they're finding pockets of this on, planets. They're finding, free-floating meteorites because it's an easy signature to track. But when they start running low on it, they start going, oh shit, what are we going to do? Mm-hmm. Eventually, they find the source of Vitalarium, which is actually, it's a spatial anomaly. And it's basically like a fracture in space-time out of which intermittent bursts of Vitalarium meteorites are expelled into our plane of existence.
Okay.
And so the Goldilocks planet that is right within its orbit, basically all of the planets go to war over it. And the war lasts 100 years. However, kind of in an upset, the IGB, who is playing everyone's side, even though they're the Space Force that's kind of co-owned by all of the planets, they win the war, and they end up basically installing a puppet government and just controlling the Vitalarium trade with an iron fist. And so they become much, much more powerful, to all of the other planets' dismay. So that would be a very interesting, I think, time period to be able to cover as well.
Yeah, because you have a whole history there, how that what that looked like in the war and how that happened. Yeah, that's awesome. We talked about the art and colors a little bit because we got both issues to look at here now. I will say the art is amazing, and the colors, like you said, do a really great job too. A lot of retro wave stuff when you're in the clubs, and some barren wasteland planets and stuff like that. I think the art is phenomenal for the first couple issues we have here.
Nice. Thanks, man.
Yeah. And I know you have, we have the 2 issues here. So how far along are you in the comics? Like how do you plan to release the next issue? Where are you with the single issues right now?
So right now, issue 0, which is the 3rd one released, that'll be coming out probably end of next month.
Okay.
Now that we kind of understand the working relationship, I can put together a comic script a little bit faster now, and I've got my feet wet. Mm-hmm. Our plan is to kind of ramp up now, so I'm ramping up, and I'm trying to release one every 2 to 3 months.
Okay, wow.
But without sacrificing quality or anything like
right.
that. We'll take the time it needs to get it right, but I want to put out just quality content as often as I can now.
And how are you publishing the comics? Are you just doing it all yourself and trying to get out there? Are you on Kickstarter? Do you have a publisher? What's going on that end?
So I for the book, I have a publisher. For the comic book, I'm basically doing it all myself right now. So I haven't done a Kickstarter yet. I've been thinking about it. A lot of people are telling me I should do a Kickstarter. I looked into it a little bit and just realized it was going to be a little bit more complicated in terms of marketing it than I expected.
Yeah.
So for right now, I think it's something I do plan to do in the future. But for right now, I just want to focus on making new content, getting good stuff out there, and then just interacting with folks at these conventions, building a little bit of a grassroots following, and just hoping people keep talking.
Awesome.
And Mike, there is an audiobook you can purchase.
Yeah, I was going to say, so I know you have your website to purchase the thing, Vitalariumseries.com, but when you click the Amazon link right now, the audiobook is on sale for 99 cents on Amazon. I just saw that.
It's on. I'm running a sale right now.
Oh, okay, on Audible. So if any Audible members out there, and also it's on Kindle Unlimited too. If anybody out there is Kindle Unlimited user. So,
just try to make it accessible for everyone.
Yeah.
And the audiobook, I don't know if you guys like audiobooks.
Yeah.
We're both audiobook people.
Yeah, we're both audio. Yeah.
All right. So, the audiobook is a production. I'm particularly proud of the way the audiobook came out, mostly because I didn't read it. Everyone in the future would have sounded like they were from Boston. It would have pulled you right.
That's awesome.
So, but I found a really, really talented voice actor. His name is Michael Neeb.
Okay.
And he basically he's got this movie trailer voice when he needs it.
Awesome.
He does unique voices for each character without making it cartoony.
I love that.
Because that can happen sometimes.
Yeah.
You know, it's like overdone, but it's very cinematic. You kind of know who's talking before it even, you know, said this person.
Mm-hmm.
And it really just, it adds an extra layer to the story. And then he goes back in post-production. He adds music, sound effects, tones when it gets suspenseful, voice modulation where it's appropriate. It's like you're listening to a movie. So it is a
really
real,
cool.
That's a journey.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Cool. So you didn't want the book to sound like Bill Burr and the Mandalorian? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, you
for a comedian, I think he did pretty good.
Yeah, he did pretty good for a comedian.
I did too. I enjoyed the Space Boston jokes after the fact, though.
Yeah. That's awesome. I think you know, a lot of our creators. I mean, we're usually talking about comics here, but like having an audiobook is huge for someone like me because you know, Chris and I spend a lot of our time reading comics, but when I'm working or traveling, I'll listen to audiobooks all the time, and that's mostly how I get my novel reading done is audiobooks. So
I always say when people at the gym are listening to music or trying to get pumped, I'm listening to an audiobook.
Yep. Yeah.
So. I do the same thing from time to time, and traveling, it's the same thing. I feel like I've shifted more to audiobooks lately because I'm just traveling so much.
Right.
And it's funny. That seems to be the way things are trending in general because I released I released my audiobook after the actual physical book by at least like a month or two. And the audiobook sales have now just about surpassed the physical book sales. So it seems to be the mode of the mode of consumption that people like for their book content nowadays. So that was important to me to make sure I kind of had a little something for everyone.
Yeah. And we spent a lot of time on the comic, and rightfully so. It's a comic book podcast, but you have the first volume of the novel done. How far are you into the series writing the novels?
So I am about 3/4 of the way through book 2. That one, I should have that out by like early 2026. So early next year. Really knuckling down right now to try and get some more of that book done so that I can, you know, just get it out before people forget about the first book. You know, that's making sure you kind of hit that happy medium of like everything is kind of in order and up to my standard of release and making sure I'm not making people wait too long. Right. So I'm trying to walk that fine line and make sure that I keep putting out content. Book 2, book 3 through 7, I already have like copious notes on where I want to go with it. Some of the concepts, some of the next steps in basically the saga of Roman Matthews and all of the characters in the Vitalarium story. Let me put it like this. So the first segment, I kind of broke it down into segments. The first segment, which is 2 books, is going to happen on mostly a planetary basis. So you're on planet Diorum. You get little glimpses of some of the other, you know, other civilizations, other planets, and things like that. And that's kind of the meat of the story. The second segment is going to be more of a galactic basis. So you're going to different solar systems, different planets that humans have colonized. And you're going to see what all of those planets look like. And each one is going to be a little bit different. You know, different government structure, different social structure. Like for book 3, for instance, the next planet that we're going to is Ventura. And Ventura is the 3rd planet that was colonized. And it was colonized basically by this mega corporation called the Syriax Corporation. And a second mega corporation, which is called Grozix Industries. And they own like 52 and 48% of the planet respectively. and they've built this society under them that's basically like a pure corporatocracy. And so you're going to get to see how life on that planet is like, and what some of the more interesting characters in the book, how they navigate it. And it's going to change with each planet that we go to. And then for the third segment of the book, we're going to start getting weird.
Awesome.
And one more thing, and then we can kind of wrap it up. I'm just curious, how is it for you creatively, mentally, and organizationally to go from writing book 2 to, like, do you ever go from writing book 2 to I gotta get this issue done and jumping back and forth? Or have you put the issues on hold while you finish book 2 and then you'll get back to it? How does that organization pattern work for you?
I'm kind of taking the just-in-time method right now to get things done, which is, it's essentially what's the most important thing that I need to do today, right? So it's some days that is, okay, I've got another convention coming up, in a couple weeks. I got to get the rest of this comic finished so that I can get it off to print so that we can, have another comic book out, some new content. And some days it's, all right, I need to really knuckle down and finish chapter 18, which is that's the one I'm on right now. So
awesome. And I think we'd probably direct everybody to your website moving forward, right? Vitalariumseries.com. Is there anywhere you want them to go to follow you, like on social media and stuff, or posting stuff about the book?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm on like every social media imaginable.
Okay.
Instagram, X, everything. It's at Vitalarium Series.
Okay.
And then I have a Patreon as well. It's called Inside Vitalarium, and I release basically anyone who's a member on that gets any of the content that I put out before everyone else. So you get pre-release stuff.
Cool.
You get kind of like behind the scenes stuff, some of the sketches of the comics before they actually come out. So you get to kind of see the creation process and how that works out.
That's cool.
Sometimes I'll release pages, finished pages, before the comic is completely finished. Like I'll give everyone like a little teaser of like pages 1 through 5 or something like that. And I'll release new artwork,
Awesome.
just any author updates, all that stuff.
Great. Thanks.
And to everybody out there watching or listening, you should know by now, just check the show notes down below. I'll have links as well as the name for all the social media that Nicholas is doing. Everything will be right down there so you can check out all this great content. Nicholas, it's been an absolute pleasure talking with you for the past 45 minutes. So we just appreciate your time, and just best of luck with the book moving forward.
Thank you. I really appreciate you guys having me on. So Chris, Mike, thanks guys.
No problem. Thank you.